The Tamil language version of Ranjana, which is called Ambikapati, is being re-released, which in itself is not an issue, but it also was marketed as an AI-altered ending. That is a perfect example of what consent can do. Narrative modifications, they include modifications to the actors' expressions, to their involvement, to voice. But to have this modified and marketed as a happy ending is actually just ridiculous. The fact that it was done without any consent is deeply troubling. I don't think the assault of AI is anything like we've experienced in our lifetimes.
I saw a lot of people resharing and reposting what you wrote, but actually, what sort of help needs to come your way or is happening?
The conversation has opened up because this happened to Ranjana. We are sort of patient zero in that sense. I honestly think for the first week we were all in just shock that something like this could even be possible. Start establishing protocols, right? Start establishing. You mentioned independent filmmakers. Like a large part of my early career went in working with independent talent. But as far as industry support is concerned, it's been massive. There has, like, preemptively people have reached out saying, please tell us what we can do. Anand Rai is just like plagued with phone calls.
Hi guys, मैं हूँ स्तुति एंड स्ट्रेट ऑफ आई वांट कि आप एक सिनेरियो विजुअलाइज करें. थिंक शोले एंड थिंक कि उसमें जय कभी मरता ही नहीं है. जय वीरू खुश, ठाकुर के हाथ वापस आ गए, गब्बर भंगड़ा कर रहा है. All of this would have been really funny had it not been tragic and a little scary. आज हम जिस चीज के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, ऑनेस्टली इट अफेक्ट्स ईच वन ऑफ अस. हर कोई एक क्रिएटिव थिंकिंग बीइंग है, एंड ऑल्दो वी नीड टू अडेप्ट विद चेंजिंग टाइम्स, एंड AI is something that all of us hear every day. यहाँ पर it's becoming really threatening. So joining me today इस Zoom screen के दूसरी तरफ is Harini Lakshmi Narayan. Lakshmi, thank you so much for taking out the time. This is a busy period for you, but I really needed you to be on Fever FM and on my show to talk about this issue जिसके बारे में आप इतना extensively अपने social media पे लिख रही हैं. So the situation is that Anand Rai's beautiful film Ranjana, जो हम सब ने enjoy करी और उसके हर एस्पेक्ट को समझा और वो अभी भी हमारे दिल में जगह बना के रखे हुए है. But Eros is re-releasing this, which is not a problem, but it has been tampered by AI without the permission of the filmmaker. Am I right?
Yes. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Stuti. Really nice to be able to talk about this. It is something that is very, very deeply concerning to all of us. And it's also something that we're navigating as we sort of go along, Isme. So there are a lot of firsts. There are a lot of things that we don't have the answers to. But yes, to come back to your question and start at the very beginning, we found out a couple of weeks ago, not too long ago, through social media posts that the Tamil, this wasn't through formal intimation, that the Tamil language version of Ranjana, which is called Ambikapati, is being re-released, which in itself is not an issue, but it also was marketed as an AI-altered ending, which was where the concern started to set in, right? So just to understand what this means in terms of what this means for archival, for films that like Ranjana who have released 12 years ago, for them to have narrative modifications in this day and age. We don't know till we see it what exactly the changes are, but they potentially include narrative modifications. They include modifications to the actors' expressions, to their involvement, to voice, but I think primarily just to the creator's intent. There was an entire group of people who came together who debated this as they went along. Nobody did this in a silo. Nobody did this as prompts or as data set programming, right? These were human beings in a room huddled together, debating what works, what has emotional sort of heft, what moves an audience, what is really primal in terms of capturing the human experience on screen, which we've done for decades now. But to have this modified and marketed as a happy ending is actually just ridiculous. Because I think just as pop culture observers go, and I mean this, I'm taking several steps back. This is not as somebody who works in the industry, but just as pop cultural observers go, the ending is primarily what worked for the film.
Exactly.
It's one of the most debated, the most sort of like argued on ending. So flawed as it may be, it is still human. It is still what was intended by an entire collective that shaped this film. Therein being the problem, because this challenges intent in a very, very severe way. And the fact that it was done without any consent is deeply, deeply troubling.
So, just taking off from what you just now said, the problem is not just that it is being re-released with an altered ending, but the fact कि जो creators हैं, the ones who originally wrote, made this film, have no idea, no say in it. So it's clearly a copyright issue, and I want you to explain to us: is there help in our courts? Is there a way legally for us to stop this?
So I don't think the point is to address it for what it is, right? This is an evolving issue. As far as the rights are concerned, I'm sure lawyers will be able to define this better, and what it means for archival, what it means in the present, and what it means in the future. But here the case is very simple. We are not, I mean, there's no contesting the fact that the studio that's re-releasing the film owns all the rights to exploit it. So this is not really about ownership. It's not a question about ownership. It is at its core a question about authorship, right? About what was intended. Just in the industry, there are contractually, we go back and forth so severely on what a locked edit is, what the final cut is. This sort of in one broad sweep renders that redundant, because now it apparently sets precedence for studios to alter any part of the narrative at any point, because the technology to be able to do it exists. I also legally look, the thing is, I don't think the assault of AI is anything like we've experienced in our lifetimes, right? What you read as harmless sort of subtext in contracts, which is that this applies to all future mediums, modes, and formats, is suddenly not harmless anymore, because you haven't seen technology catch up with the kind of speed and aggression that AI is catching up, right? It's a matter of weeks before versions are perfected. You've gone from like some sort of a draft version of something visual or creative to a very, very perfected, lip synced, sort of tonally accurate representation of what can be. And I want to be very, very clear that this is not a fight against the technology. The technology is very, very exciting, right?
It is
it always helps.
What we do with it is what is questionable.
Yes. As with all sort of superpowers, I think with great power comes great responsibility.
No, but I think what's deeply disrespectful is, at one level, like recently in the news, we were reading about how A.R. Rahman is going to collaborate with OpenAI CEO and create some sort of music. Like you said, it's great to be with technology, to be using it and be up to date. But here, your creative vision, your hard work, is basically being used as very recklessly for an AI to do what it wants to do. What are you guys planning? I know you're upset and angry, but has there been support from the community at large? I saw a lot of people resharing and reposting what you wrote, but actually, what sort of help needs to come your way or is happening?
So this is a really broad and wide and important spectrum. Yes, there has been a lot of support from the creative community. It's not just directors and writers and sort of creative professionals, so to speak. It is also a lot of people who work on the business end, like I do, who want to protect the sanctity and ensure that processes are not violated as we go along, right? You mentioned Rahman Saab. That is a perfect example of what consent can do, right? To be able to willingly collaborate with somebody to sort of harness a new technology and be able to explore the spectrum of what more you can do with it to enhance your art. It's a supportive function. It is not replacing a person's voice. So these are completely different sort of examples in that sense. And yeah, beyond the initial shock and sort of the horror settling in of what actually this meant, I think the reason we are all sort of being so vocal about this is that it takes one precedence. So it takes one film to sort of get out there with this sort of an example of it having been manipulated, it having been sort of like tinkered with without consent, without information, without, and marketed in the names and the legacy of the people who have made it, right? Like, this is a film that has enjoyed tremendous fandom and sort of the love of audiences, right? To be able to sort of leverage that legacy to market something that it isn't is fatal just for the industry going forward. So yeah, I mean, we're sort of looking at this as a very forward facing conversation. Yes, it is sort of, the conversation has opened up because this happened to Ranjana. We are sort of patient zero in that sense.
Yeah.
But this really is a concern for what comes next, right? How are we going to tackle this going forward? Just I like I said, nobody has the right answers yet. Everybody is just figuring. Like, even if you look at places like America, who have, I think, just a little bit of advantage in terms of movement before we do. They themselves are still figuring, but I think a lot of it comes down to sort of regulations and protections, like protective mechanisms, both at a creator level. So I'd like to be able to look at this as a three-pronged exercise. One is for the creators themselves. So whether that's the production house, whether that's the entire collective, right? So that's the production house, the director, the writers, the people who are creating the material. Then comes the guild or the association or the regulatory body that is sort of governing this for the industry. This again is a very sort of industry specific function, right? And one step beyond that would be your actual legislative and government involvement, like your Niti Aayog or things like that, where you have a formal council for AI related sort of explorations. I mean, easier said than done. This is going to sort of be working very, very hard and aggressive work in progress for a while. But it really needs, I think, riders, disclosures, sort of transparency from all sides. Nobody is saying do not use AI, but where you use AI, because we all, how you use AI, and because AI models have primarily been trained on work that exists in the universe, right? So to be able to say whether you're infringing, whether you're not infringing, ये किसी और का काम है जो आप recycle करके use कर रहे हो, आपको शायद पता नहीं होगा, but which is why checks and balances are required. Audits are required at every part of the life cycle, right? So I'm sure if a technology can do this much, you can use that also in the interest of transparency and disclosures where necessary, and sort of create frameworks as we go along.
Also, you spoke about how, checks and balances need to be in place. Last year, the Screenwriters Association of Hollywood had a full-fledged strike with a lot of big names who joined in. Do you see something like that happening here? Will that help? Also about ownership, I mean, this is not, we're not talking about an indie filmmaker's work being taken away. This is Anand L. Rai. This is a legitimate big production house, and you guys are facing this. What do other young filmmakers, budding artists, understand from what is happening? This is so scary and also very disheartening.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is truly terrifying, but I suppose it takes a first of its kind anywhere for us to be able to do something about the situation, right? I honestly think for the first week we were all in just shock that something like this could even be possible, right? Again, I mean, I'm not talking about sort of the legal vetoes on this. There is absolute and full acknowledgement and disclosure of who owns the IP. But again, I think the distinction that needs to be made against ownership and authorship is very, very key. Again, I don't mean authorship in the way that the copyright laws define it, because that again may be a little narrow. But I mean intent, right? When you finalize a film, when you finalize a long form work, there is there is there's only one way you see it, right? And after that, it belongs to the audiences. Like, you may have debated parallel endings, you may have debated, like, letting go of a character. There may have been,
Artistic vision, and
yes,
yeah.
yeah, but once you sort of set it out into the universe, it belongs to the audiences. You have to go by sort of uh, that measure of how they have felt towards a film, right? And again, I am not. This is very specific in the case of an archival IP that we're saying this, right? Because I read a lot of reports where, I think comparisons were made with director's cuts and anniversary editions and things like that. But as a rule, and never as an exception, this is always with the filmmakers involved, right? You want to release a parallel, an alternate ending, it is always with the filmmaker involved, because he understands the reasoning, the logic. He or she understands the reasoning and logic of why you got to the place that you did. And it was a conscious decision that you took, as like a minimum of 200, 250 people that it requires to make a film. So yeah, this is problematic in that sense. But again, like, I think moving away, like, using this as the worst case scenario for now, and I do not want to be challenged on this. Let's hope this is the worst case scenario as far as these things are concerned. But to use this to sort of start establishing protocols, right? Start establishing. You mentioned independent filmmakers. Like, a large part of my early career went in working with independent talent. Yeah, I mean, you don't really have a redressal or a grievance sort of council that you can take this to, because again, it's happening, the technology is sort of evolving way faster than we're able to catch up in terms of, yeah, processes. But it will take for everybody to sort of like emerge from their safe spaces, from their little like offices, and speak about this, sort of convene as directors, producers, as heads of studios, as like creative professionals in the industry, and address it on a policy level. So I don't mean legal policy just yet, because we know how long that takes to come into effect, but just as guilds, as advisory committees, as auditors, as self, sort of as riders, that you are disclaiming oneself, just as creative professionals. For example, a writer, like, because it is such a lonely process, right? Writers are mostly writing alone, right? And I know so many of them, I mean, a majority of them are really starved for somebody to brainstorm with. And AI has made that function very accessible, right? It is not necessarily such a lonely process anymore. And it is really harmless. There is no problem in you using sort of another perspective to bounce ideas off of. But you don't know, and nobody has, I mean, just considering the sort of information that we're dealing with in this day and age, you don't know what has been trained on which data set from where. So I think, just on as an example, for a writer who has brainstormed, it would be really great for them to put it up front, because it's not a matter of shame. You're using what tools are available to you, but you are also sort of putting this out there. It's a voluntary disclaimer that I have brainstormed with this, and then you have plagiarism checks, so if you know, you're able to do something about it. But if you don't know and you're blindsided, that's where the problem is.
The terrible thing is, Eros owns rights of so many other films, and I don't know what this little experiment will lead them to do. But like you rightly said, the technology is upon us, and things are moving faster than for us to match up. I just hope the industry comes together, and that is so important. For now, Harini, have you guys taken legal recourse? Do you think there is a way that this release could be stalled, or it's a foregone conclusion now?
Look, I don't think that is our objective. I mean, it's not really been on the first three things that we need to do. I think more importantly, we're focusing on what may happen following this, right? We're watching this thing unfold very, very carefully, because we don't want precedents to be set on our watch. Legally, I mean, again, a lawyer would be sort of best to weigh in on this, because they understand how the law can sort of expand a contract to be able to accommodate what we're dealing with today. But as far as industry support is concerned, it's been massive. There has, like, preemptively, people have reached out saying, please tell us what we can do. Anand Rai is just like plagued with phone calls. Like, I mean, there has been a lot of support. There has been a lot of sort of concern on behalf of the film, because this is, I think, unanimously everybody understands this is not about this film. This is just about what this is going to mean post release. So yeah, to that end, we are escalating it formally in a way that can help address these grievances one at a time. And the thing is, there is no Hail Mary to any of this, Stuti. I feel like we're going to learn as we fail or succeed, or I mean, this is going to be learning on the go. But I think what is really heartening, that everybody is like, heart is in the right place. Everybody is thinking about this objectively for what it means. What does this mean for the future of the industry, especially when we have not really had an easy run last few years. You don't want to go ahead with something that further alienates audiences, that further sort of ruptures the theatrical experience. That's what it is at stake here. I mean, look at the size of our industry, look at including the regional markets. If you are going to allow this to happen, this is one more sort of like spoke in the wheel of something that's already sort of a little, I mean, it's on its way back to health, but this is a fatal blow.
Harini, you spoke about checks and balances. Could you explain, for the benefit of my viewers, listeners, what are some of the things that we can do?
So I think this needs to be regarded in the entirety of the life cycle, because just at a very, very sort of perfunctory level, it takes anywhere between 18 months to about 2 years to make a film start to finish, right? At the very minimum. So you have sort of redressal mechanics and architectural support, I think, as you go along. So one would be that, necessary disclaimers from people that are working on film, starting from the writer to sort of the VFX, the previous crew, a lot of which sort of depends on modern and emerging technologies. So please, like, use it all you will, but I think attribution is really crucial, right? In addition to disclaimers, in addition to sort of riders that you're signing that indemnify the audience, I think, to an extent, that you are not watching regurgitated work. You are watching something that is original in intent, that has maybe just been streamlined for efficiency and productivity using sort of emerging technologies, but where, with sort of a demand for transparency, I think you will automatically lead. I mean, hopefully, this is a best case scenario, but you can really aspire to become the sort of culture that gives attributions where necessary, that allows audits on these fronts, that you are not really infringing on anybody's work. That I have used, of course, I have used AI. I mean, like, this is not to villainize AI. Also, there is a difference between AI as we know it, which is really pervasive, right? Like, it's everywhere, it's in your fridges, it's in your TV, and generative AI being the core difference here, because it is essentially being trained on what information exists in the world, which means it has been created by somebody out there in the world. So to be able to attribute it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Stuti. This was wonderful. Thanks for having me.